I like how you adjusted your glasses as soon as you're like ready. Very Superman vibes. How are you doing, Bryce?
I'm doing well. Happy Friday Eve.
Friday Eve. Yes, it's a good way of looking at it. But yeah, how's it? How's it on your like neck of the woods? Hopefully not as hot. I would say not as hot as it is in England, but we've cooled down a little bit. But when last time I was in Texas, it was boiling.
That's right. I will say that the key difference is we actually have AC here in Houston,
Yeah.
which cannot be said for everybody over there.
Yeah, so for anyone who hasn't heard, the UK and most of Europe has been struggling this week with a massive heat wave. And as Bryce said, it's very shocking to a lot of Americans specifically. We don't have aircon in our buildings, and it's been confusing a lot of people with that. So, yeah, we've had roads melting, signs melting. People have been able to cook things on like the floor using a frying pan. They can like cook eggs and stuff like that. Yeah, it's been fun. So I still have my little fan running. So if you see my hair whispering, it's because I've got a fan going still in the heat wave. But yeah, okay, right. So let's get into it. So welcome everyone to the Keys to AWS Optimization, the show where we share stories, concepts, and solutions to help you unlock your spend at AWS. My name is Stephanie Gooch, and I am a commercial architect at AWS. And today I'm joined by Bryce. Bryce has recently, you've seen him on the show before, but he has changed roles. Bryce, do you want to tell everyone what you do now?
Yeah. So the good news is I still get paid to do cloud financial management. I just support a different customer base. So I'm a senior financial architect for the public sector. So if you're a government entity or you support mainly a government entity, congratulations, I can help you.
Cool. So yeah, I'll always post this on YouTube, as everyone knows. And if you're watching on YouTube, below will be a link to Bryce's LinkedIn, so you can message him if you like. But yeah, so today, so first of all, housekeeping as always, please feel free to add comments, questions in the chat. Today we're talking about S3 optimization. Now, we've done S3 before. As some of you might remember, we've done some bucket stuff. We've done a couple of different things. But I'm going to give a shout out in a second to someone who suggested something similar to this. But Bryce came to me yesterday. As you might remember, we were meant to have a customer guest on, but unfortunately, can't make it today. So Bryce has kindly stepped in to help support. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look end to end at, you've got an idea, you want to optimize an S3. How do you validate that and then take the action? So this is going to be like an end-to-end process. Bryce, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, what we do encourage you is this session is recorded. It will be posted later on YouTube. So as you're trying to follow along, if you miss a step, don't worry. It's okay. We'll post a link later so you can retrace those steps of how we did that.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm just going to double check who Jez, if you're watching, thank you for chatting to me at the FinOps meetup. Also check out FinOps.org and FinOps meetups, but he suggested doing Cookalong episodes, and it just so happened Bryce messaged me about a similar thing. So it's happening. If anyone has any recommendations for Cookalong episodes, so we're going to call them from now on, thanks Jez, then let me know. And you can always email us at costoptimization@amazon.com for any questions or comment on the video. All right, enough faffing. Let's get chatting about S3 optimization. Bryce, do you want to share your screen, or do you want to say anything else beforehand?
No, I'll go ahead and start sharing the screen out here. As we do this, the start of the journey that we find most customers here is they are in their S3 management console. They've discovered Cost Explorer, and now they've started zeroing in on S3 as one of their top spends, right? So for those that may not be familiar yet, all I did is go to the management console. I went into Cost Explorer, filtered on the service for S3, and then clicked group by for usage type. What this is going to start telling us is what specifically about S3 are we being charged for. So you can see I'm pulling out a lot of data. This is my own internal Isengard account. So I'm pulling out a lot of data, and even though I'm starting to leverage things like Glacier or things like infrequent access tiering, I'm also still leveraging the highest in terms of cost, the S3 standard storage class. And that's what this yellow is. And what we're going to spend the balance of time today doing is actually saying, how do we go in and investigate and see what is the potential best storage class available that will provide us the best return on our investment for that.
Yeah, and just as a reminder, like you can see on Bryce's screen, it's not called standard storage. in Cost Explorer. It's got different names. Check out, we'll show it at the end. There is a query for the cost and usage report, which we'll show at the end, which kind of shows you what the equivalents are. But yeah, time storage bytes hours is what the standard one is.
Perfect. So the best place to always start your investigations is going to be inside of the S3 Storage Lens service. It is a free service by default. There are some paid features, and we're going to talk about today what advantages that you get with those paid features. But how you would get there is you're going to go over to S3. In fact, I've got it pulled up. Let's take it back. So you're going to go over to S3, and once you're there on the left side, you're going to see an option for dashboards for Storage Lens. Now, this is going to work whether you have a single account or an organizational structure that you set up in AWS organizations. By default, you're going to get just the normal dashboard. The scope of that dashboard is going to be set to just whatever account that you've enabled that through. So in this case, I'm only going to see those results for the 130 account. Now, this happens to be a payer account. So separately before this, I went ahead and set up a dashboard for my organization. So when I click on that, I'm going to see not only just my main account, but I'm also going to see the other linked accounts there as well. So you can see here my other accounts that are listed.
Can I jump in and add something really quickly? Can you go back into the Storage Lens page with the dashboards?
Yes.
So really small thing. This happened to my customer the other day. The default dashboard is always in North Virginia. So S3 is a global service, but the default dashboard is always there. So they had trouble because they work out of Ireland. And so when they only had permissions to go in into Ireland, they couldn't see the dashboard. So if for some reason you're denied by seeing your default, it might be because of a regional specific. So just be aware of that. So something very small and niche. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, we get spoiled here. Don't have that issue.
We set our own rules.
So once you're here, you do have the option, right? So we, up on the filters, we wanted to focus today just on standard storage class. We're going to go ahead and set that filter globally across the dashboard. So I'm going to set that for standard. I'm going to click apply. And now we can see, hey, how much do I have stored in standard storage? How many objects, so forth. And this is where we get our first idea of potentially where can we save. Okay, so because we only have about 30 minutes here, I won't spend too much time going through the dashboard itself and all the different options that you have. One couple things I want to call out. If you are just going to the default view for the first time, you may not see some of the options that I've got here. That's because I'm paying for the additional metrics or the extended metrics that come with the dashboard. One example here, you'll see I have a prefix option, as well as I have recommendations that are being generated. Mm-hmm. So those are going to be some of the advantages you get when you step into the paid feature. Okay. Now I'm going to scroll to the bottom because what we're going to see here are a couple of things that are going to help us with trying to understand, is there another storage class that's going to help us? And for at least demonstration purposes, I'm just going to focus on just one account today so that we don't get too confused later when we try to action something. So I'm going to go ahead and filter just to the account that I'm logged into. We're going to go ahead and apply that. And you'll see the whole dashboard starts to go ahead and solve that problem for us on the filtering. Okay. Now down here, I'm going to see some information, and when we start pricing this out, you're going to see that I'm going to jump over here to storage class. Okay, so I'm going to switch to the storage class tab. I'm going to scroll to the bottom, and I'm going to see something down here called summary. This is going to be what we start using over in the pricing calculator to start building out a pricing model to see if this is actually going to be cheaper in a different storage class.
Okay.
So if you have any questions, Seth, before I jump over?
No, we're good now. Keep going. I'll let you know.
Awesome.
Oh, guys, yeah, if you've just joined us as well, we kind of started. We're talking about S3 and taking it end-to-end process. So any questions around S3 optimizations, around these tools, feel free to jump them in the chat.
Okay, so I switched screens here. What we're looking at, this is the AWS pricing calculator. You can go here, and it works for not only S3, but any of our services that we have inside of AWS if you're trying to price out and understand maybe what the implications are of certain decisions, or you're looking at migrating into AWS. I would encourage you to go here. It's all public price listed that's here. It's also very flexible and different nodules that you can choose of what you want to partake in. So if you're looking at a very specific EC2 instance, but you want to value the different purchase options, whether it be for on-demand, savings plans, spot, all of that can be modeled out here for you. So in this case, I'm going to add the S3 service. I'm skipping a couple steps just for purposes of demonstration, but you could simply just do add service, go to the next screen, search for S3, add that as a service, and then you would get to a screen that looks like this. Okay, so you can go ahead and enter a description if you want. Make sure, don't skip over the part about selecting your region.
Regions are important.
So once you do that, you then have a toggle option of which storage class you want to take a look at. In this case, it's going to be defaulted to S3 standard. And then what I've done is evaluate, hey, do I want to evaluate infrequent access tier and instant retrieval? But you could do this across Deep Archive. You could look at S3 intelligent tiering as well as one zone frequent access if you want. At least for today, we're just going to focus on these 3 storage classes. First thing it's going to ask you is, hey, how much storage do you want here? And if you'll notice, I've got information filled out. And you may be asking, how in the world did I do that? How do I know how many requests to put in? How do I know how much data is coming out of S3? This is the beauty of what you're getting with S3 Storage Lens. Right here, I can see how much total storage I have. I can see how many objects. And if I even go even crazier on the Activity tab, now I can see how many requests I have. Now, I will pause here. This Activity tab is populated because I'm paying for the advanced metrics. Right. We do have an option that is sort of a freemium option to get this information, but we're going to have to go to the cur file to do that. And there is a cur query we'll show you here in a second of how you can do that and where you can get that information. But at least here, while we're in Storage Lens, we're going to go ahead and leverage the information that we have. Okay, so I have my get requests, I have my puts. Okay, so that's what's going to feed into this information. Now, the numbers are lower. That's because I did this last night, so I've obviously had more data put in, and these numbers are going to be a little bit lower than what we see there today. But I'll go ahead and put in that information, and then I can scroll down, and it's going to ask me the same information for infrequent access. But now we start to see some additional options. Right. And this has to do with how S3 pricing works. As you move objects between storage classes, the recommended way to do that is with lifecycle transition policies. And so you can see here, this is in millions. So I looked at how many objects I had in my S3 standard class. So let me go back and I'll show you. Okay, in the summary option. Okay, see that object count? That's how I knew if I took everything that was in S3 standard today and moved it over to frequent access, that's that high watermark. That's how many objects I need to move.
Okay.
Okay. So over here, I actually need to do 2.5. Okay. Oh, doesn't like decimal. So I'll just leave it at 25. That's okay. Then you can see here data retrievals. Now this is in gigabytes. Okay. And again, if I go back into the Activity tab and I look at that S3 standard, it's going to show me over the last 30 days, and this is another key part when you're looking at the dashboard. You can see here that this is going to be set to whatever day that you log in. So in this case, this is July 20th. And if you scroll down to the first chart, it's going to say, hey, this is over the last 30 days.
Right. So not month necessarily. It's last 30 days.
So if you want to look at maybe like a whole month, go ahead and click, June 30th, the end of the month, right? And then now you'll see that this is going to update all the way back to June 1st.
That's a handy little tip. Didn't know that.
And you'll see down here all of my numbers updated. So now you can see the exact numbers that we're putting in on the other screen with the 2.3, 2300 and 7700. Now the numbers start to match. So you can see what I was doing last night. Okay, and again, if we go back to summary, there's where I got the 25 million. Right. Of course, I had a typo. It's 2.5 million, 25 million. So heads up. Hopefully you don't make a mistake I did. Okay, yeah, sorry, I was showing data retrievals. Okay, so let's go back to the Activity tab. And if we scroll to the right, this is where we see bytes downloaded. So this is where we know we retrieve 2.6 gigabytes out of S3. Okay?
Yeah.
So you just rinse and repeat. You do the same thing here for Glacier Instant Retrieval. And then you update. Okay? Now, at any part of these calculate, you can see how am I getting to the total cost. And you can see each individual line item, what the rate is, and how it's getting there. So if you ever have questions or details, you can hit that show calculations, and it shows you for that storage class. Now, the nifty tip is, before I click update, you can just click the show details down here, and already I can see which storage class is going to be most economical.
Right.
So right here would cost me 44 cents, or it's costing me 44 cents today in standard. I could move it and save money to instant Glacier Retrieval, but actually, because of the activity level, the cheapest option is actually infrequent access tier.
Right.
So that's how we know. We went to recap for those that are joining the call. We started in Cost Explorer. We saw I was using S3 standard. We went into Storage Lens. We saw the activity levels. We went in. We carried that information forward to the pricing calculator. We put in all of the prerequisites, and now we can see on a monthly basis the cheapest option for me based on my actual consumption and usage pattern is going to be the infrequent access tier.
And this, I know Bryce is showing it on his account, and so it's like 32 cents. So it doesn't seem that extreme, but I did this with a customer recently, and it was like, I think we like millions that we had to deal with, like annual savings of like millions of dollars. So it seems like a small thing on here, but it can, if you use S3 a lot and you use standard by default, it's a big thing to check.
Yeah. Now, if you actually get to the pricing estimate, right, it's going to show you total cost for that month. So it's not too helpful there. But what you can do is you can export, and then right here you can say, for each of the standards, for each of the S3 storage classes, what would be the monthly implications and the monthly implications, and you can ensure that you've actually got the right set of gigabytes for each of those.
Cool.
All right. So one of the things that we did mention was there is let's say you're not paying, you don't want to pay yet for Storage Lens for the advanced metrics, right? And you're kind of questioning, well, how in the world can I get some of these activity levels? One of the ways to do that is there is a query that you can do against your Cur file. So I skipped ahead just a bit. And Steph, do you have that link for the well-protected lab?
Yeah. Coming up.
Perfect. So that's what I did. As I went into the well-protected labs, I copied out that query, and I put it here in Athena to query against my Cur file. Now, if some of this is a little bit foreign to you, what I would say is there is a well-protected lab that will also walk you through how you can set up your own cost and usage report and have it available for you to query inside of Athena.
Yeah, and if you love a video, you love hearing us chat about it, then there's a video on how to do it on the Keys to AWS optimization on the YouTube channel. If you look in there for Cur, there's a handy video that explains all the setup for this if you want to dive into that.
Now, once you paste in the SQL query, there's two edits that you need to make. One is you need to update the actual name of your own Cur file that you need to query against, your own table in this case. And then you need to edit the date ranges. Okay, so you can see here what I did is I put it in for this year, and I wanted the last 3 months worth of data. Okay, so I recognize we're in July, but I updated it for June and May. Now, once you execute that query, you can go ahead and download those results. And just like any good baking show,
when you made earlier,
this is what it looks like. And all I did was put it into a pivot table. And once you have it inside of a pivot table, now we start to see some things that may look familiar for you. So we can see for the S3 standard storage class, how many requests did I have coming as it relates only to the S3 standard storage class. And so this is in terms of thousands. So this is where we can get that information to know, okay, and you can see here I filtered it down for just June and just that account that we were looking at. And now I can see these requests that are being made. And now I can go ahead and put those. Now, a couple of caveats to this information that you're going to see and why it may or may not be different from storage lens, because you can see here on the put object level, that's almost 200,000 requests.
Right.
I didn't have that. right? In what storage lens we're showing. That's because there's additional information that's flowing inside of your curve file. So make sure you try to strip out potentially what is not related to the actual storage objects that you're looking at. So that could be one caveat. In this case, the reason why I'm having those put objects that's there is because when you start storing items in the S3 Glacier storage class, it's going to put metadata headers on those individual objects. And there's 8 kilobytes of metadata that are put there and then put into S3 standard storage.
Right. Oh, okay. Interesting.
But this at least gives you an option of where to start.
Yeah.
Right? So now you have some idea or semblance of your requests. Okay, that's how you get the freemium option, right? So again, I do recommend Storage Lens. I do recommend going there and doing the advanced metrics. If the cost is a concern for Storage Lens, you could always go back into Storage Lens and get a pricing estimate, right? So even in the default view, in the overview tab, you're going to see how many objects are being monitored by that dashboard. So in this case, I know it's 2.5 million. I know that the cost is X amount per object being monitored. So you can just do a quick equation to know, hey, it's going to cost me about $1 or $2. So in this case, for my own dashboards, I think I only pay $2 a month.
So yeah, and it is one of those things that you can always set up and remove. Brought in forever. So if you do want to use it and try it out, then you can. I wonder if I can sneakily find the price. But continue. So we've seen on Cost Explorer, we know that we want to move from S3 standards, maybe a cheaper alternative. We found the data to support that. What's next?
All right. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and action what we've seen. We're here in the dashboard. We've seen that there is opportunity, but maybe we want to find out. What we've done so far is looked holistically at the portfolio. And we said for all of our S3 standard storage, but that may not work, right? We don't want it to just yet wholesale move everything out. Maybe we want to do a little test. So what we want to do is we want to go find potentially a bucket that we could go ahead and put a lifecycle transition policy on to go ahead and move some of that data out of standard into a better access tier. So as a quick reminder, I've set my filter for account and I've set it for S3 standard storage as part of what I'm looking at. Okay. So I know that these are the buckets that only have storage in the standard storage class. And down here, what I'm going to do is see this is where this is a graphical representation of those buckets, which ones have the most standard storage and which ones don't. So in this case, I'm going to probably target maybe this glue assets, right? So these are going to be the queries that are coming out of glue from an ETL job that I have. So that may be a really good candidate. Look, the impact probably should be pretty small to help me make sure that what I'm doing is correct. Okay. And there's a lot more that you could do as part of investigation, but for interest of time, let's just go ahead and jump right on in.
Yeah, let's do it. Before we jump onto the lifecycle, I've got a question for you. So I've got a question from Cloud Asher. So for paid storage lens metrics, can we check into object level size and last access date time? Is that one of the paid metrics or is that in there by default?
So unfortunately, the furthest that you can go is to the prefix level. It does not do individual object. So I could do prefix, but unfortunately I can't go that far.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you. But you can use inventory to list out some of the objects. I think I would check out inventory. I can't remember what data's in that specifically. But yeah, that's as far as it goes. But if you want to provide any feedback, always raise a PR, what is it? Request. I forgot what it's called.
Product feature request?
Yeah, thank you. Product feature request on your support page, and we'll listen to the feedback.
All right. So here in the S3 Management Console, here's my buckets, right? So I'm in the account that the dashboard discovered, right? So I'm in that payer account, right? Right here. And I went to the S3 console, and here's that bucket, that glue asset bucket. So I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to go over to the Management tab. Okay, so you can see here, I currently don't have a lifecycle policy.
Mm-hmm.
And what these lifecycle policies, this is how you actually move data from one storage class to another.
Right.
And in this case, I'm going to put it at the bucket level. So I'm going to create the policy. I'm going to say move to cheaper storage. Right. And I want to go ahead and apply this to the entire bucket. Okay. And you do have options to filter. If we had a much longer session, I would do that. Let's go ahead and acknowledge. And I say, hey, yes, I want to move my current and non-current versions. And it's going to say, okay, great. When you do move it, where do you want to move it to? Mm-hmm. And based on my analysis, I know that it's the infrequent access tier. I'm going to say move it after 30 days. So 30 days after the object's created, let's go ahead and move it into that. And then we're going to set that as well for current and non-current versions. You can see here a summary of the policy, create the rule, and voila. Okay. So it's going to immediately start assessing that against the objects in the bucket. And by the time it moves those objects over and you see that flow through in Cost Explorer, it should take about 24 hours, 48 hours. So it's pretty quick.
Cool. And the do you want to create another lifecycle rule just quickly? I just want to highlight something while we're in here.
Yeah,
and if you just scroll down, you don't have to create the full thing. There's the tick boxes the bit below. Yeah, that's it. So the lifecycle rule action. So something in here that we often see in S3 Lens, and maybe we'll do another episode on, is the delete markers and the the multi-part upload files. So if you hear people speaking about, if you have a look on your Lens, maybe make it as a challenge, go and see if you can find anything about multi-part uploads or about delete markers. You can use lifecycle policies to get rid of those as well. So just wanted to flag those are in there. But we've only got a couple of minutes left, so I don't know if we'll have time to jump into anything else. But Bryce, is that is that it? Are we done now? Have we moved everything across?
We have, absolutely. And just to finish that out, if you go over to Storage Lens, you go into the cost efficiency option for one of your drop-downs. This is where you can see incomplete bytes and multi-part uploads. So you can select that, and this tells you which buckets have, quote-unquote, the worst offenses for it. Okay.
So yeah, I think we might do like a bigger S3 Lens session that covers a lot of these hidden things, because it is really useful. There's just so much to it. But we've seen customers like save up to 60% on their bucket. That's very specific. I saw a customer save 60% of their bucket cost by getting rid of delete markers and multiple uploads. That's not a Amazon percentage. That's just my experience percentage. That you saved it. Okay, cool. Awesome. All right. I will take a screen down. But yeah, so any kind of last words of wisdom when it comes to looking at S3 storage and then making these decisions in terms of transitioning stuff?
Always start with S3 standard storage, but only start moving stuff when you're confident and you've talked to the owner of that data before you move it. Otherwise, you could find yourself with your foot in a bucket.
Yeah, that's very true. Don't just start moving stuff randomly. Make the calculations. I think using the calculator is quite a good thing, because I think a lot of the time, especially if you're new to it and you have a lot of data, maybe you don't want to risk just doing like, I'm just going to move everything and then just see if it's into the right storage settings. So yeah, awesome. Okay, any kind of closing remarks or finishing things you want to share?
Just really appreciate everybody's time sticking with us. Again, it's going to be recorded, so if you miss a step, feel free to go back and feel free to play around. You may have stuff in infrequent access tier. Evaluate Kohler options. You have the data there to tell you what the activity level is. Play around, see if there's cheaper ways to do that.
Yeah, we had customers do that. They move into Deep Glacier instant access. I've forgotten what the initialisms, what the letters are. Awesome, yeah. And if you like this, this is, I think, maybe something we might start doing more of on the show. This kind of, I'm going to call it the cook-along things. I'm going to steal that terminology. Then let us know. Give us an email at costoptimization@amazon.com. and feedback, any ideas you'd like to see us go through, maybe any suggestions, or if you're interested on coming on the show, let us know. Next week, we have a customer coming on talking about forecasting, which is fun. We haven't done that before, which will be with Alex. So yeah, thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Thank y'all.
Thanks.